I started my first business when I was 17, first official business. And that was obviously plagued with failure. I started my first business in Rwanda at the age of 19. That was plagued with failure as well. Actually, when I first moved to Rwanda, my plan was to do something in print advertising. And I had $1,000 at the time, or at least I borrowed $1,000. And it failed. And for the longest, I could not deal with that failure, so I'll tell people we had a trial issue. When in reality, it was the first and the last. And the reason why we failed, to answer one of the questions, was, and it's something that plagues businesses, no matter your life cycle. And actually, the first speaker talked about it, and I think even Patrick talked about integrity. We had issues with financial management and governance. And even if your company has structures to manage its finances well, if it doesn't have good governance structures and ethics, you will be faced with a scandal. The lady talked about what was happening with the Guptas, what's happening with KPMG. And this is one of the many reasons why businesses fail. But I'm a firm believer, and I'll continue to tell my story, but I'm a firm believer that if a business fails, it is a reflection of the people in the organization, and more so the leader of the organization. And it's not fun as a leader to know that your business failed because of you. So you will go, these banks don't want to give us loans. Patrick, I remember, I don't know if you remember at Kayla, when you had the 400, it was 490 something million. I'm trying to remember correctly. You showed me a letter. I think it was from BRT. Was it BRT? And I'm just thinking about it because he shared his story and he talked about the banks. But if he chose to settle on the banks being the reason why he's not moving forward, he would have never moved forward. And what happens as an entrepreneur, you'd be like, oh, it's my team. My team is not good. But at the end of the day, what about you? He talked about his ability to identify, or at least he would go into meetings and he would make sure that he knows how to pick the right people. And that was part of him as a leader, taking on the responsibility for the success of the company. And it starts with you. So now, when you talk of personal preparation or personal capacity to handle failure or to ensure that your business does not go through or at least can recover from failure, my own story, when I moved back to Rwanda and this happened, I had to humble myself. Now I say humble myself is, I came with this grand idea to do this. I wanted to do something in services. It was high class, it was in an office, it was sophisticated. You understand? But I had to humble myself. I remember one of my guys came to me and said, why don't we buy agricultural products from the rural areas in Rwanda and bring to Kigali? And he suggested Ibitochi, Matoke. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what does that look like? Who do we call to deliver? He's like, no, we actually have to go to the rural areas and buy it. So I had to come out of myself. If I had chosen and said, no, I can't do that, I mean, I'm so-and-so, I've done this, I would have been stuck at that level and I wouldn't have found the opportunity that has put me here today. So I had to first deal with my own issues of humility. And I had to say, okay, what's more important, my ego or my business? And I put my ego aside and I went to the rural areas. And I kid you not, the next stage was, I thought it was going to be easy. You go into the rural areas and you buy, you put it on a truck and it comes to Kigali, you sell it. But I found out that normally, this is specifically Shimirongo market, you had to bring a truck before 6 a.m. And actually, even coming at 6 a.m. is not even guaranteed. They normally buy from the first 3 or 4 trucks, depending on the demand. So you actually have to, after loading the previous evening, you have to bring the truck and park it. Now, what that meant for me was I had to stay with the truck all night. What that looked like was me sleeping in the truck. And I'm saying this, I had to deal with those personal my personal issues that would be a barrier for me to actually see business success. And I say that to simplify because there's so many things that make us fail. But if you trace the common thread across all these things, it comes back to you as the entrepreneur. So I ended up doing this business and I was very fortunate I succeeded at it. But that was step one of my business journey. Now another challenge that I faced, and coming back to this whole idea of financial management, as an entrepreneur, it's very easy for you to blur the line of what is company money and what is your money. Not so. Not so. So a customer pays you 10K and you need to put in some airtime. You can just deduct it and buy 1K and you justify it. You're like, at least I'm making business calls. You understand? You can relate. We can relate. You guys are going to pretend like you don't do those things. And I did that for so long, thinking I could sustain it. Now, what you don't realize is that because you also don't have systems and structures, you work, you see money come in, but it leaves as fast as it comes in. Because money, and I'm gonna be as brash as possible. Money likes to be treated. Money is like a person. It desires love and affection. In a sense, I'm being very serious, and I'm not saying you should love money, but I'm saying you should treat it with care and respect. I'm being very serious. You laugh, but it's true. If you show money that I've worked for you, I've earned you, and now I'm just gonna let me talk to the gentleman in the room. I'm talking as a guy. I don't know how it is for the ladies, but as a guy, imagine you pursue a lady, right? Actually, probably even the ladies can relate to this. A guy pursues you, and he does everything for you. You know, he calls you during the day, he texts you, he calls you at night. You have long conversations on the phone. He's willing to spend his money and take you out on a date. He's willing to give you his jacket, carry your bag. You understand what I mean?
No.
You understand what I mean? No. You're not. I asked the lady. Are you a lady? Okay. Ladies, do you understand what I mean? And then after he gets you, in his mind, like he's in a relationship with you, he doesn't do the same things, does he? Haven't you guys experienced that? I don't know. Ladies, have you experienced that? Yes. You have experienced that?
Yeah.
And how do you feel? You normally want to leave the guy. Yeah? You're like, okay, this guy, he just wanted to pursue me, he's not interested in me, why should I be in this relationship? Yes? So guys, are you learning? Guys, listen. The ladies are telling you something. So imagine money in the same way. You have worked for it day and night, and you get it, and you go to Chomad. I'm just saying. You understand what I mean? What gives that money the belief that you value it? You understand? I'm just saying this in the grand scheme of things. Now I'm talking about the financial management that is needed, or at least the financial discipline that's needed as an entrepreneur to ensure your business succeeds. The same effort you spend in getting the money is the same effort you should spend in keeping it, to reinvest it to grow your business. It's not easy, and I say this, and Patrick talked about, as a business you need to find focus. Now, I'm one of the fortunate/unfortunate ones who got distracted. And I went into many businesses. And I had to consolidate, but unfortunately I had employees, I had customers, I had suppliers. So initially I had close to 7, 8 businesses. Now I only have 3. Now I did that and consolidated because I wanted to focus. But now I'm in a situation where you find one business is doing extremely well and another business is not. So you're tempted to say, oh, the money that's sitting on that account, maybe I can pull it and invest into this one. But I had to tell myself, my business, the one that's doing well, will not grow if I keep adding that extra weight. And I had to develop that self-discipline as an entrepreneur. Because at the end of the day, even if you have accountability systems in your organization, if you're the sole shareholder, your employees won't necessarily stop you if you want to pull money from this account to that account. And I'm saying that to give context to those who are running a company and you're the only shareholder. or you're running a company and you're the only one with control over the inflow and outflow of money. So as an entrepreneur or as a business person, even as an individual, failure stems from you. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I want to also share with you that you have control. Now, if I told you the reason why businesses fail is banks, that means that who has to do the job to solve the failure? No, it's the banks. Because I said the banks are the reason why we're failing. So the person who has to solve the problem is the... If I said the reason why we're failing at businesses is because the regulator is not doing, who has to change the system? It is the... But if I tell you that the reason why you fail at business is because of you, who has to change? It's simple. And the reason why I say that is there is nothing that's impossible. And I say this in the most utmost respect for circumstances, understanding that sometimes things are beyond your control, sometimes life happens to you. But if you can mentally take on that resolve and say, no matter what problem I'm facing, no matter what issues I have in business, it's up to me to solve that, then you are actually halfway there. And it was the question was, how did I survive? Actually, it was your question. How did I manage to get past some of it? I've had challenges. One of the challenges I had was in 2016. So 2016, what ended up happening was so I did tell you about my business. So the 3 companies I have now is our commodities business. We recently changed the name to Maisha Trading Group. So Maisha means life. And then we have a company called Thomas Ford. It does service offices and co-work spaces. So we rent out boardrooms, meeting rooms, offices. If you want to sit for an hour or 2 at work, instead of going to a cafe, you can come to Kigali Heights. You'll only pay, $4 an hour? If you want a space to work out of per month, we charge as little as $100 per month. So these are things at Kigali Heights. So these are things, that's one company. Then our third company is involved in gas, LPG, cooking gas, wholesale and distribution. We have a brand, White Cylinders. So that is it's called Deep Sky Energies. So that is what I do. The only thing you can control is the capacity you have to be able to solve these issues. So I don't want to go on long, but we recovered from that situation. I came out of that situation saying, okay, we need to focus. 1, 2, we need to create operational discipline. 3, we need to find a better way to build a better team. And all of those things, I had to ensure I was capable, competent, and qualified enough to carry it out. So I'll say this again, failure is inevitable. Failure is inevitable. There's actually a joke. They say, men plan and God laughs. That's the joke. In the sense that you will say, okay, I'm gonna get, as Patrick said, I'm gonna go get 400 million francs and invest it in my business. And I'm going to go to X bank. And the bank says, yeah, we're actually interested, we'll give you the money. But then you go home and you go for a second meeting and guys are like, do you guys have collateral? Those are not part of his plans. And so in itself, that is a form of failure because what he set out to achieve, he did not. But you have to be able to say, okay, I cannot change the bank's mind, but I can continue to push for movement. I can continue to push. So for me, I think as an entrepreneur, and my journey around, I think somebody asked a question about finding investors. How did I get the finance to grow my business? Yes, it was, I tell people the second best thing to doing research before you start your business is actually starting. So I believe the 2 greatest things in business is planning / research and starting. And he said it. He said they went and believed their research showed them that, the challenge is commute times. It's going to be tough to, I wouldn't want to wait for 1 hour. I'm sure other people don't like waiting on the bus for 1 hour. So that is the challenge. But when he actually started, he realized, okay, actually the challenge is not this, it's revenue leakage. And he wouldn't have found that out if he had continued. If he went to the banks and asked them for money, basing it on the idea that it was time that he was saving people. And I say that in the sense that if you, as an entrepreneur, truly want to find the investment you need to grow your business, start with what you have. And along your journey, you will find people who are willing to support you. And you will find them in the most unassuming places. And I think Karen even talked about it. The sponsors who eventually sponsored her, she didn't go to them. And I can tell you, most entrepreneurs, very few actually get funding from the people they initially thought they would get it from. So don't stress so much about the planning as you do about starting, and starting with what you have. And it's the same thing with failure. If you fail with something, don't focus on what you don't have, focus on what you do have. In management jargon, we call it a resource audit. So we have 3 classifications as a company of what resources are. This is human, human resource, financial resources, and environmental resources. So environmental resources range from things like policy to what's other, even banks, regulatory frameworks, investment funds, competitions, media. Then you have financial resources, which is the money you have at your disposal, and then human is your mind and the mind of your team. And once you determine what you have, you then say, okay, this is the strategy I'm going to formulate to ensure it works out. But don't be so stressed if it doesn't go according to plan. So I'm just saying this, and in conclusion, my last statement to you would be, if you're gonna fail, and this sounds cliche by the way, don't judge me. If you're gonna fail forward. You heard me? Did you hear me? Yes. If you're gonna fail forward. If you're gonna fail forward. If you're gonna fail forward. Even I don't know what it means, I'm joking. But the idea is, don't let yourself fail and stop. Progress in your failure. Seek to move forward even despite your failure. And you will see remarkable things. Thank you.